Hello friends, time for a chat. I know I'm looking like a naughty kid in this video, but well, that's what I am. Anyway, the first thing I want to say is, in this video I'm gonna use two words, normal and natural, in different contexts. But the two words don't mean the same thing. What's natural may not be normal. It's natural for hair to go grey. It's normal for people to color it. So let's get to what I want to talk, the first thing that I want to talk. Now we all know it's easy to predict a child's sex before the child is born. And of course, once the child is born, it's obvious whether it's a boy or a girl or a transgender. However, there's no way you can tell if that child is going to grow up and become a homosexual or a heterosexual. There's equal probability of a child developing either of the two sexualities. But there's a reason for it. Now I realize in nature, human body produces pheromones or sexual attractants to attract a potential mate. So you'll often come across people who are not that good looking, but you'll feel strong attraction towards that person, strong sexual attraction. That's because that person's body is producing really strong pheromones that's really attracting you and possibly others. And then of course you must have come across people who look alright, who look good, who are good looking, but you still don't feel sexually attracted towards them. And that's because that person's body is not producing pheromones which is having the same kind of effect on you. And perhaps that's why a same person may have a different level of attraction for another person. It just depends upon how that person's pheromones is affecting the other person. So in nature, organism is designed to attract a mate. And it won't be unreasonable to say that human bodies produce pheromones to attract the opposite sex. But that's what happens in nature. It may not be what is normal. But what is normal? Today, heterosexuality is normal and homosexuality is not normal. Not normal in the sense that majority of the people are heterosexual. But this heterosexuality is not just a result of pheromones or the body that you are born in. There are a lot of factors which go on to determine your sexual orientation. Psychology is the one which plays the biggest part. Fetishes. People derive pleasure in doing sex with certain things involved. Okay, it could be a fetish for say high heels, or it could be sadistic or masochistic fantasies or fetishes. The thing is that people's sexual pleasure is enhanced by certain things. Now sex is one of the three drives which are considered to be the most powerful drives in an organism. The first one is hunger, the second one is safety, and the third one is sex. Now all three drives can be controlled to different degrees. An individual cannot live without food. So hunger is the strongest of the three. However, you can control hunger, like people who go on fast unto death for protests and all that stuff. They are actually controlling their hunger. And of course, you may be hungry, but you can hold on for a couple of hours if you are not in a position to get food. So you can control hunger to a certain extent. Then is safety. Safety is a strong drive that determines our behavior, but hunger is stronger than safety. Take the example of a rabbit. A rabbit knows that if that rabbit comes out of its burrow, an eagle might snatch it. But if a rabbit is hungry, it will still get out of its burrow and go and try to get some food. Its drive of hunger has taken over its drive of safety. So we can all control our urge of safety to a certain extent. People do crazy stuff, they do crazy stunts. That's because they can control their urge of safety. The last is sex. An organism needs to procreate to leave behind posterity. And this is the urge which you can control the longest or the most. The thing is that you don't go crazy for sex. You control it to a certain extent. That's because your mind has control over your urge. Now, your mind is affected by different things. You may not like the attitude of the opposite sex, and you may feel more comfortable with the same, hanging around with people of the same sex. You might start thinking that maybe you like the same sex better than the opposite sex, and this likeness may take over your sexual fantasies, and you may indulge into sexual activities, and this would make you homosexual. This is how sexuality develops. Today, majority of the people are heterosexual. So it's normal for kids to grow up, have a look around in the society, and develop heterosexual tendencies. But tomorrow, when homosexuality will become normal as well, because it will be accepted by more and more societies and more nations, what will happen in that scenario? The kids, they'll grow up and they'll see both heterosexuality and homosexuality as normal. They will have less inhibition in trying homosexual ways, and perhaps it would become even more harder to predict whether a child is going to grow up to be a heterosexual or a homosexual. So what this means is we have a choice to make today. Now, I will talk about test tube babies and surrogate motherhood and abortion and stuff in the later part of the video. But for this particular point, let us just concentrate on what happens naturally. In nature, only a man and a woman can procreate to produce a child. Without any scientific assistance, humanity needs heterosexualism for its sustenance. If homosexuality becomes normal, that means humanity's future would be jeopardized. There would be risk of humanity going down the path of extinction, and we are still considering just on the natural method. Now, this simple thing means that homosexuality, even though there's nothing to say that homosexuality is not natural, it's not normal today, it could be normal tomorrow, but homosexuality will cause problem to humanity. So what will we do tomorrow? There's nothing wrong about being homosexual, but it will affect psychology of the kids when homosexuality will become normal. So are we going to curb homosexual freedom? We are willing to give them freedom to be married today. That's all right. A marriage is their personal choice. A man or a woman has got every right, every freedom to decide who they want to live with. If two people of the same sex want to be married to each other, it's their life. It's none of our business. We don't deal with them depending upon who they have sex with or how they have sex with. We deal with them for whatever our needs are, which are not sexual needs. So if they want to lead a homosexual life, they should be free. If they want to marry each other, they should be free to marry each other. But the problem is, how will homosexuality becoming normal affect the future of humanity? Now, the kids, are we going to say that because we don't want our kids to be influenced by homosexuality, that we are going to curb homosexual freedom at public display of affection? Today, when you walk around the society and you see a boy holding a girl's hand or a boy and a girl kissing, it feels normal. You say, ah, that's freedom. I'm living in a free society. Tomorrow, you'll have homosexual couples doing the same thing. They do the same today as well, but although not to that it's not visible to that extent because it's still not normal, in the sense that homosexuality is still not does not still not represent the majority. But tomorrow, when more and more when homosexuality will become more and more normal, you'll see more homosexual couples displaying their affections publicly. How will that affect the children growing up? Will it not affect their sexual fantasies, their sexual desires? Will it not make them believe that this is as normal as heterosexuality? So what are you going to do? Are you going to say that you can have the freedom to marry each other, but you won't have the freedom to display your emotions publicly? Wouldn't you be discriminating against homosexual couples in that scenario? Or are you going to go the way life goes in Middle Eastern nations? Although their reasons are different, but let's just take their example. In Saudi Arabia and UAE, Kuwait, and those nations, public display of affections is banned. The good thing about this is nobody knows what anyone does in their bedroom. Two men or two women could be living together and everybody thinks, yeah, they are friends living together. Nobody even thinks that they are possibly having sex with each other. So you don't know who's homosexual or who's heterosexual in those nations. So a person's personal choice has no effect or meaning on the kids growing up in those nations. Kids, only heterosexual couples can have kids. They grow up thinking heterosexuality is normal and everything is sweet and good. But is that the kind of society that you want? Beyond that, is that really a good example of a society? In such a closed society, a lot of things go behind in the curtains. A lot of wrong things which never come out because everything is closed from the view. It is not a good example of a society. You don't want your society to go that way. So what will you do if you will not even do that? Are you going to discriminate? Or are you going to let nature take its course and let everything go as it is going, let homosexuality become as normal as heterosexuality, and then let posterity bear the fruit of whatever grows out of it? That is also a way. That way does not involve anything from you on any activity on your part. You could be content that you have lived your life well and you can die. End of story for you. But that's the thing. This brings me to the next part. Children. Now, nature takes its own course. Science can assist nature, can resist nature, or can alter nature. These three are different levels of morality. What is morality? Morality changes with time. Homosexuality is normal today. Homosexuality was a sin a few decades back. Morality has changed. Society's morality changes. It will change. It will change further. So how do we best define morality? Perhaps the best way to define morality would be from the point of view of nature. What happens in nature, you let that happen. That is what is morally correct. A lion wants to hunt a deer to feed. That's natural. That's good. But the moment you want to feed on some animal's meat and you start locking those animals up in cages so that it's easier for you, you don't have to go out every day to hunt to get your food, that is morally wrong, because you have the right to have the food, but you have no right to restrict another organism's freedom. Another organism deserves freedom for as long as it lives and does not become your food. By restricting that organism's freedom, that's when you are doing something immoral according to natural theory of morality. But that's a bit difficult yardstick. It's hard to work with that yardstick of morality. We need to dilute that yardstick. To give you an example, in nature, if someone suffers a disease, if we let nature take its course, then that disease will kill that person. And that disease will not only kill that person, it will affect the people who are left behind, who are related to the person who's just died. So we can't let nature take its course every time. We have to interfere. And perhaps that's what the yardstick about morality should be, that there is natural morality and there's a bit of dilution of that natural morality. Now, what is assisting, resisting, and altering? Let's take the example that is relevant to this video of kids. A couple wants to have a kid. In nature, a man and a woman can have kids. But say something is wrong with the man or a woman in the way that maybe the man has got some dodgy sperm count, or the woman has got some issues with her ovaries or something, and they cannot have a child normally. Science can assist them in the form of test tube babies. If the woman can still bear her husband's child, the same man's child, that is assisting nature. We are not talking about surrogate mother over here. We are not talking of sperm banks or ovary banks or ovary donation over here. We are just talking of same couple who have been assisted by science to have a child. That's assisting nature. Resisting nature is, say, using condoms to prevent pregnancy. Now, if given women's menstrual cycles, nature itself gives human beings a wide window of indulging themselves without having to worry about having a child. But that's what is natural. The moment we add a condom into it and we try to stretch the nature, we are resisting nature. We are not letting the nature take its course. Altering nature is where surrogacy comes in. There is something wrong with a woman. She cannot have a child. She cannot bear a child. So we use a surrogate mother to have a child for her. That is altering nature, because in nature, that woman wasn't supposed to have a child. It doesn't matter what science could have done for her, but we have altered the nature for her and given her a child. These three have different levels of moral issues: assisting, resisting, and altering. Now today, homosexual community is really fighting for marriage rights. Tomorrow they'll be fighting for child rights. So what are we going to do? We are going to say that you cannot have children because you cannot have children naturally. Or we are going to say that the surrogacy or surrogate motherhood is not available to you, or sperm banks are not available to you. I mean, think of it. Do every straight couple actually deserves a child? A lot of people don't even have the means to take care of themselves, and they are having a line of kids. What about those parents? Did they really deserve those kids? The question is, we all talk of our rights. I'll talk about my rights. The girl will talk about her rights. The gay community will talk about gay rights. Nobody ever talks about a child's rights. Today we make a decision for a child who's not even born. 18 years later, when the child grows up and matures and sees what we have done, we have no way to fix for that child what that child considers right. If today we say that homosexual couples can have children, tomorrow those kids grow up and say, man, I wanted a normal life, a mother and a father. What have you done? How will we give answer to them? The moment a child is involved, it's not just the rights of the parents, the individuals who are the parents. It's the rights of the child which are involved as well. A third party is involved as well. How can we decide on a third party's right? And then, of course, if we are going to say that we can't just restrict this discussion to homosexual couples. I am going to discuss about heterosexual couples as well, in the sense that there are couples who don't even deserve to have children. If we are going to stop homosexual couples from having children, shouldn't we be stopping those couples, those heterosexual couples from having children as well? What should be the yardstick that these are the people who can have children, or these are the people who cannot have children? What would be a just yardstick? Perhaps it's too big a issue to be discussed in this video, but I just wanted to raise it so that you know what sort of issues are gonna come up and how democracy is really affected by these issues. The thing that I talked about, are you going to discriminate against gay community just to protect your future? That raises the issue of democracy. Today, majority is heterosexual couples. So does that mean that the minority will not have a voice and majority will prevail over them? Does minority really have a voice in democracy? It's something to think about. And then, of course, the issue of children, that how can we determine a child's rights who's not even born? How can we determine a child's fate? These are some really deep issues that we as a society really need to think about today. We need to think about what we want with our future, what kind of future we want for our posterity. And the time to think about these issues is now. Thanks for watching.